Directed by Ted Nicolau, we are talking Subspecies 5, Blood Rise. And this is a 25 years later entry into the Subspecies franchise and is actually a prequel to the existing 4 Subspecies movies and its spin-off. So this has been long in development, and I was quite excited to see this because I have enjoyed the Subspecies movies previously. I watched them before I did the channel, so there's no reviews for them apart from Vampire Journals, which is the spin-off. Anyway, so this is again featuring the cast from the original series, including Anders Hove, who plays Radu. Radu, of course, named after the historical Dracula's real-life brother. And you've also got Denise Duff, although she plays a different character in this, although they kind of do tie it in with why it's the same actress in the series. And it tells a story of Radu as a demon baby who is taken in by the church and raised as a human, becomes a Knights Templar, and eventually kind of succumbs to vampire influence, so we say, and becomes the kind of the vampire that we know from the original movies. Along the way, he sires himself a couple of fledglings. We meet other characters, his parents, his kind of master and stuff. This sort of kind of like female vampire that he sort of saved and things. And it all kind of is effectively the kind of over a span of centuries the course of the backstory for Radu and other supporting characters in this series. So what do we think? Now, I am unashamedly quite enjoy the early Full Moon movies. I think they have fallen off the kind of the wagon a little bit in the more recent kind of films, but I did enjoy the earlier Full Moon films, and the Subspecies is one of them. And one of the big things I liked about it in those films, and it's true of this one, is creating this fabulous kind of gothic atmosphere. Now, the original Subspecies movies were all filmed in Romania. This one, I think, is filmed in Serbia, but it still kind of retains that fantastic kind of gothic, almost Anne Rice sort of style, kind of classic romanticized version of vampires. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of blood sucking here. And the Anders Hove Radu character, as the film goes on, he kind of appears more monstrous and Nosferatu-like. But it is very much that sort of classic literature style of vampire, you know, standing around in the shadows and kind of like gothic gear and stuff like that, with dry eye stuff. I mean, I just enjoy the kind of the visuals on this, and even though this is a lower budget movie, I still kind of quite enjoyed the effects, the kind of the visual effects where they kind of fade into kind of shadow and stuff like that, and that's how they kind of move around and things, and the various kind of like makeup effects and things. I just kind of quite enjoyed the visuals, and you know, all of the vampires here are all kind of like somewhat subdued and kind of like you know, a little bit more kind of angsty, so to speak. But I still really enjoyed it, and I think Anders Hove does a great job. He was good in the original movies, and although he's obviously a lot older here, his character when he's a human doesn't become a vampire until he's older, so it kind of works for the kind of the story, and he's, you know, he's pretty good. And you know, again, for a modern Full Moon movie, I think they've taken a little bit more time and effort with this one. I feel it just feels like there's a bit more care gone into the kind of production on this one, because obviously it's a franchise which has been going on for kind of quite a long time now. And you know, you could argue the cast are a little bit hammy at times, like, you know, but I still kind of quite enjoyed this somewhat kind of over-egged performance by the majority of the cast, given this kind of this somewhat sort of, as I say, over-egged performance, but it sort of works at the same time for this sort of style of kind of vampire movie. The plot has its issues, and we'll kind of come on to it, but there's a lot of kind of like betrayals and shenanigans going on between this kind of that sort of vampire sort of community and stuff. And I quite like the time periods that this kind of takes place in, and all kind of taking place right from the kind of Crusades era to, and not to modern times, but certainly going through the kind of the centuries as this story sort of takes place. It's not exactly an action-packed movie, but I do feel if you like a sort of slower-paced, more considered and atmospheric movie, then that you may want to check it out. What doesn't work, it is not exactly an action-packed movie. I will say I do think the story is a little meandering, and it takes a while to get going, and ultimately the kind of the status quo when this movie's left off is what the status quo is in the original movie. So you could argue, what was the point, really? I mean, did we actually need the backstory? It does feel sort of like it didn't really necessarily a story that has to be told, especially. It's more of just the fact that, you know, I think originally the plan was they were going to do a direct sequel, but I kind of like the fact that it's a prequel, so to speak, and you can watch this without having watched any of the others because it is the beginning of the story. But at the same time, I really didn't feel like it's not a story that necessarily was needed to be told. And as I say, I think as the film goes on, you kind of feel it plods a little while, especially I would say in the first half. As I've mentioned again, some of the acting performances here are a little bit on the kind of hammy side, to be fair. I personally think it kind of fits with this sort of movie, but you know, you can't deny that sometimes here it's a little bit overbaked. Yes, it's a lower budget film. It's not exactly filled with kind of set pieces or huge kind of like special effects type things. It's somewhat kind of dialed back on and that sort of thing. Again, if you've watched, especially I would say, it is more along the lines of the Vampire Journals in regards to its sort of stylistic choices. It's not exactly like a thriller minute style vampire movie. Maybe it could have been a little gorier, I would say. It lacks a little bit of bite, if you excuse the pun there. And you know, it's not going to be for everyone. I feel if you're a fan of the original Subspecies movies, you'll probably enjoy this, although it does feel a little unnecessary. But yeah, it was a fun kind of nostalgia style movie, of very much harkening back to the glory days of Full Moon, and I, for one, enjoyed going back to that. Was it a movie I would be in a big rush to watch again? Probably not, but I did enjoy the one-time watch. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What were your thoughts? Please do leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time.